In the galactic annals of history, the known universe had always been populated by various starfaring species. Some were peaceful explorers, charting the cosmos for knowledge, while others were conquerors, bending weaker civilizations to their will. For 4,000 years, the Galactic Council, a coalition of these species, had acted as the central hub for interstellar diplomacy and governance. It was a beacon of unity amid the cold indifference of the void, overseeing trade, resource sharing, and territorial disputes. Yet, unknown to them, a far older force lurked in the background. Humanity. To the Council species, humanity was an enigma, not even a whisper in the annals of their star charts or archives. No trace of their worlds or fleets, no records of their diplomats or envoys. Yet humanity had walked the stars for over 20,000 years, mastering technologies and sciences that others could barely dream of. Unlike the Council species, who thrived on visibility and alliance building, humanity had perfected the art of subtlety. For thousands of years, they had watched. The humans, operating as a shadow collective, had no need for the Council. They observed conflicts, studied alien cultures, and infiltrated Council societies with individuals seamlessly blending into the local populations. Humans served as researchers, laborious, and even politicians within alien civilizations, always careful to mask their true nature. Despite their omnipotence, humanity refrained from intervention. Wars raged, planets were lost, and civilizations fell into ruin. Yet the silent observers did not move. It was not indifference that stayed their hand, but wisdom. Humanity understood that the chaos of growth was an inevitable part of civilization. Meddling too soon could stifle progress, leading to stagnation. But humanity's self-imposed restraint had its limits. In the 4,000th year of the Galactic Council, tensions reached a breaking point. The Council, once a bastion of order, began to fracture along ideological lines. Two major factions emerged. The Purists, led by the Avikari, a proud, avian species known for their technological ingenuity and martial traditions. They sought to centralize power within the Council, demanding stricter control over member species and asserting dominance over resource allocation. The Reformists, championed by the Drexel, a species of amphibious beings known for their adaptability and resourcefulness. They argued for decentralization, advocating for greater autonomy for member species and a redistribution of wealth and technology to uplift weaker civilizations. What began as a political schism devolved into outright conflict. Diplomatic summits failed, and trade routes became battlegrounds. Alliances crumbled as neutral species were forced to choose sides. Fleets clashed across star systems, leaving entire planets scarred and lifeless. The Purists unleashed devastating bioengineered plagues on reformist strongholds, while the Reformists retaliated with planet-destroying kinetic weapons. Humanity watched. The war escalated beyond any previous conflict in galactic history. Casualty estimates reached the trillions, and entire species teetered on the brink of extinction. Yet still, humanity held its silence. They had seen such conflicts before and knew that some wars burned themselves out, leaving room for renewal. But this war was different. The scale of devastation threatened not just the warring factions, but the entire galactic ecosystem. Left unchecked, the war would annihilate the very foundations of civilization in the galaxy. The Watchers could wait no longer. Across dozens of battlefronts, chaos unfolded in eerie unison. It began with inexplicable silence. Fleets that once blazed through space in fire and fury went silent, their engines extinguished as if snuffed out by an unseen hand. Power systems failed in synchronized waves, leaving warships adrift and defenseless. Purist admirals frantically barked orders into dead comms, while reformist tacticians stared helplessly at darkened control panels. On planetary strongholds, entire armies awoke to a nightmare. Their weapons lay disassembled, reduced to inert fragments scattered around their barracks. Battle mechs stood inert, their control systems mysteriously wiped. Munitions vanished as though spirited away by unseen forces. Even the towering orbital defense platforms, the pride of both factions, powered down and drifted aimlessly in orbit. Then came the message. Across every functioning monitor, every active transmission channel, a single word appeared. Enough. The voice that accompanied it was calm yet impossibly commanding, resonating not just in sound but in the minds of its audience. Panic rippled across both factions. Their most advanced sensors swept the void, searching desperately for the source. Yet the darkness of space betrayed nothing. Their greatest strategists, their most brilliant minds, were left baffled. How could any force operate on such a scale without being seen? In the heart of the galaxy, the capital of the Galactic Council stood as a symbol of interstellar unity. Zerathis was an artificial marvel, a station the size of a small moon, adorned with crystalline spires and luminous cities that floated on anti-gravity platforms. It was protected by an armada of warships, each a testament to the engineering might of the Council species. Then, the humans arrived. First came the disturbance. Space itself seemed to ripple and warp as if reality were bending to accommodate something beyond comprehension. A pulse of gravity washed over the system, temporarily disabling every ship's propulsion systems. The Council's fleets drifted powerless as the void began to shimmer with an unnatural brilliance. Emerging from this shimmering distortion came the first ship, the Apex of Eternity, humanity's great mothership. Its size was staggering, dwarfing the Council's largest station by a factor of 10. The ship was a masterpiece of design, its surface a living metal that glowed with the hues of a cosmic nebula, shifting from radiant blues to fiery golds. Its hull bore no visible weaponry, yet its mere presence radiated an overwhelming aura of power. Behind it came 10 Titan-class ships, each larger than the combined fleets of the Purists and Reformists. These vessels were angular and sleek, their hulls adorned with faintly glowing glyphs that pulsed in unison, as though the ships were alive and breathing. Following the Titans, 7 Leviathan-class ships emerged, their forms curving like celestial serpents. These ships moved with an organic grace, their surfaces shimmering with a lattice of light that seemed to respond to the faintest ripples in space. The Council's defense forces, though powerless, stared in awe. Ships so massive should have disrupted local gravitational fields, yet they moved with a precision and silence that defied the laws of physics. Their sensors returned readings that made no sense, materials beyond known science, energy outputs far exceeding any recorded in galactic history, and yet no visible propulsion systems or weapons. The Apex of Eternity broadcast a signal on all frequencies, overriding every channel in the system. Unlike the earlier single-word warning, this message carried a calm but commanding tone. "We are humanity." The words resonated with a power that seemed to bypass language barriers, translating perfectly into every tongue. Every species in the Council understood. "We have observed the chaos wrought by your conflict. Your actions have imperiled not only yourselves, but the balance of life across the galaxy. We cannot allow this to continue." The voice paused, allowing the weight of the message to settle. "Your leaders are summoned to a summit aboard the Apex of Eternity. The time for war is over." The summit chamber within the Apex of Eternity was unlike anything the Council species had ever experienced. It was an ethereal space, its walls shimmering with holographic displays of distant galaxies and swirling nebulae. The room felt infinite, as though it existed outside of conventional dimensions. The leaders of the Purists and Reformists entered hesitantly, their entourages trailing behind them. The air itself seemed to hum with an unseen energy, a sensation that made even the most hardened warlords feel exposed. At the center of the chamber stood Glenn Maximus. He appeared humanoid, but bore a presence that transcended mere biology. His features were refined, his every movement exuding an effortless grace. His eyes, deep and luminous, seemed to contain the weight of millennia. Behind him stood a cadre of humans, each radiating a similar aura of perfection. They were clad in uniforms that shimmered like starlight, their forms blending seamlessly into the grandeur of their surroundings. Glenn began not with threats, but solutions. "We have come not to dominate, but to restore balance," he stated, his voice resonating with an unassailable authority. He gestured, and holograms materialized around the room, displaying the devastation wrought by the war. Planets reduced to ash, ecosystems obliterated, and billions of lives lost. In moments, we can undo this. Humanity's demonstration of power began immediately. Their fleets dispersed across the galaxy, each vessel executing a pre-designed plan of restoration and intervention. Bioplagues engineered by the purists were eradicated within hours as swarms of nanites descended on infected worlds, neutralizing pathogens at a molecular level. Terraforming ships deployed atmospheric generators and ecological restoration systems, reviving dead worlds in days where it would have taken centuries for natural recovery. Reformist colonies that had suffered from purist blockades awoke to find their infrastructures rebuilt, supply chains restored, and populations cared for by autonomous medical drones. Titan-class ships hovered above war-torn systems, deploying advanced tools to stabilize dying stars and repair fractured planetary crusts. Back in the apex, Glenn Maximus turned his attention to the leaders of both factions. War stems from fear, mistrust, and ignorance, he said. Let us show you another way. With a wave of his hand, holograms shifted to display a proposed new charter for the Galactic Council. Humanity's diplomatic team had analyzed every nuance of purist and reformist grievances, crafting a solution that addressed the core issues while preserving the dignity of both factions. In the presence of such overwhelming capability, neither side dared object. They were not coerced but compelled by the sheer brilliance of the solutions presented to them. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy stood on the brink of peace. And it was humanity, the silent watchers, who had made it possible. Humanity's intervention, while decisive and awe-inspiring, did not sit well with all. For some, the revelations of their power and influence were too much to bear. Among the Council species, pride was deeply ingrained. For millennia, they had seen themselves as the pinnacles of galactic civilization, their unity and advancements the ultimate achievement of intelligent life. The idea of bowing to a race that had remained hidden, watching silently from the shadows, was intolerable to many. Whispers of resistance began almost immediately after the summit aboard the apex of eternity. Extremist factions from both the purists and reformists united in rare cooperation, determined to prove that humanity's might was not as infallible as it seemed. They spread propaganda painting humanity as intergalactic overlords in disguise, accusing them of subjugating the galaxy under the pretense of peace. Their resistance culminated in a daring, coordinated assault. Fleets from dozens of war-weary worlds converged above Zerathis, aiming their entire arsenal at the human fleet and the station that had become a symbol of humanity's intervention. The attack on the apex. The combined fleet was a spectacle of desperation and defiance. Thousands of ships, ranging from sleek purist dreadnoughts to rugged reformist carriers, charged toward the apex of eternity with weapons primed. Their arsenal represented the full might of the Council species: antimatter bombs, gravitic collapse devices, and planet-cracking rail guns. The apex did not respond with hostility. As the fleets closed in, a faint ripple emanated from the station, barely visible but unmistakable in its effects. The attacking ships halted mid-flight, as though frozen in place by an invisible force. Pilots and crew members stared in shock as their control systems became unresponsive. Weapon systems disassembled themselves molecule by molecule, the components rearranging into harmless clouds of metal and crystal dust. Then, the most unnerving phenomenon occurred. Space itself seemed to fold around the attacking ships. Time fragmented, looping events into surreal repetition. Commanders watched in horror as their own orders echoed back at them, distorted and meaningless, while their fleets remained trapped in a temporal stasis. The message from the apex was unyielding: we gave you peace. Do not force us to take action again. A test of humanity's ground forces. The humiliation of their failed assault did not deter the extremists. Their rage turned from humanity's ships to Glenn Maximus himself, who was scheduled to address the Council at a formal session. Extremist factions infiltrated the Council chamber on Zerathis, determined to kill the human envoy and send a message of defiance. As Glenn began his speech, chaos erupted. Armed insurgents, elite warriors from both the purist and reformist camps, stormed the hall, their weapons trained on the human delegation. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Humanity's ground forces, a cadre of 12 guards accompanying Glenn, moved with precision that bordered on the supernatural. Clad in sleek, adaptive combat suits, the humans neutralized the attackers without firing a single lethal shot. They moved faster than the eye could follow, disarming and incapacitating the insurgents with a mastery of combat that left the Council species stunned. Even the insurgents, bred for war and hardened by years of galactic conflict, were no match. They fell like children before giants. By the end of the skirmish, the attackers lay unconscious or restrained, their weapons in piles of disassembled parts. Glenn Maximus, untouched and unperturbed, continued his address as though nothing had happened. "Your pride blinds you," he said, his voice cutting through the silence that followed the skirmish. "But our purpose here is not to humble you. We care not for your submission, only your survival. Do not mistake our patience for weakness." The demonstration, while awe-inspiring, deepened the divisions within the Council. Those who already viewed humanity as a threat used the event to stoke further resentment, while others marveled at the restraint and precision of humanity's response. Despite humanity's warnings, the purists and reformists could not reconcile their differences. Their long-standing animosity boiled over once more, reigniting skirmishes that humanity's initial intervention had suppressed. Frustrated by their inability to harm the humans, extremist factions turned their aggression back on each other. The galactic capital of Zerathis became the site of open conflict. Reformist fleets launched strikes against purist embassies, while purist warships retaliated with devastating orbital bombardments. The Council's unity shattered as member species began choosing sides once more, threatening to plunge the galaxy back into full-scale war. Humanity watched the carnage with cold calculation. They had intervened once, giving the Council a chance to restore peace, but the factions' pride and hatred had squandered that opportunity. This time, humanity would act decisively. In a synchronized operation that spanned the galaxy, humanity's fleets deployed their ground forces to key conflict zones. Their approach was unrelenting and absolute. In planetary battlefields, human drop pods descended like comets, their adaptive shields deflecting all incoming fire. Troops emerged, equipped with weapons and armor that responded dynamically to threats, rendering them impervious to most known technologies. Their tactics were flawless, blending brute force with surgical precision. In space, humanity's Titan and Leviathan-class ships created demilitarized zones by emitting localized gravity wells that rendered combat ships immobile. Entire fleets found themselves trapped, unable to retreat or engage. On Zerathis, human operatives infiltrated both purist and reformist command centers, disabling leadership networks and seizing control of strategic hubs. Humanity's actions were ruthless in their efficiency but devoid of malice. They neutralized both sides without unnecessary bloodshed, disarming combatants and dismantling weapons with mechanical precision. As the Council species reeled from the overwhelming show of force, Glenn Maximus delivered his final address from the apex of eternity. His image was broadcast across every known communication channel, his voice resonating with a calm authority that demanded attention. "You have been given every chance to end this conflict peacefully. Yet your pride and hatred have blinded you to the cost of your actions. We will not allow you to destroy yourselves, or this galaxy." His tone grew firmer. "This is not our war, nor is it our desire to rule over you. But know this, if you threaten the balance of life again, we will act, not for conquest, but for the preservation of all." Humanity's intervention marked the end of the galactic war. With their fleets dismantled and their leadership incapacitated, both factions were forced to submit to humanity's terms. A new charter for the Galactic Council was implemented, overseen by neutral mediators under humanity's watchful eye. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy found unity, not through conquest, but through the humbling realization of their shared vulnerability. Humanity, true to their word, withdrew their fleets after ensuring the peace was stable. Their ships vanished into the void, and their operatives returned to the shadows. Yet their presence remained, an unspoken reminder of the silent watchers who had saved the galaxy from its own destruction. The Council species rebuilt, wiser and stronger, forever changed by the day they witnessed the might and mercy of humanity. In the aftermath of the war, the galaxy entered a golden era of prosperity. The Galactic Council, now reformed with the framework crafted by humanity, became a beacon of equitable governance and unity. Resources once wasted on war were redirected to rebuilding shattered worlds and revitalizing entire star systems. Formerly warring factions set aside their animosity, focusing instead on exploration and innovation. Trade routes flourished, scientific advancements accelerated, and cultural exchange reached unprecedented levels. True to their word, humanity receded into the shadows. Their station above Zerathis, a symbol of their intervention, vanished without a trace. The massive fleets that had enforced peace dissolved into the void, their presence undetectable even to the Council's most advanced sensors. Yet, despite their physical absence, humanity's influence was unmistakable. Council worlds found themselves flourishing under an unseen hand. Crops grew healthier, infrastructure became inexplicably more efficient, and technological innovations emerged that no one could explain but everyone benefited from. For decades, the Council species believed humanity remained among them, watching silently as always. Expeditions were launched to track their elusive benefactors. Fleets of explorers scoured the farthest reaches of the galaxy, deploying probes and unraveling ancient star charts. They searched the most desolate regions of space, delving into black holes and traversing uncharted nebulae. Yet every effort yielded the same result: nothing. Not a trace of humanity's presence could be found. No ruins, no worlds, no signatures of their vast technological empire. Speculation filled the void. Some believed humanity had ascended to another plane of existence, their work in this galaxy complete. Others argued they had never truly left, that they had simply perfected the art of invisibility. A few doubted they had ever existed at all, their intervention reinterpreted as myth by a galaxy desperate for a savior. Still, the galaxy thrived, the reforms they had introduced ensuring stability and growth. The memory of humanity became a legend, a whispered story shared across generations. For the Council species, they were a reminder of humility, a testament to the idea that even in a universe of countless stars, there was always something greater. For humanity, it was merely another chapter in their infinite journey, a silent affirmation of their role as guardians, protectors, and shepherds of a universe that might never fully understand them. The galaxy would continue to prosper, but it would forever carry the memory of the Watchers who had stepped out of the shadows, only to disappear once more into the endless expanse of stars.